Welcome to English Story Avenue. This is the place where real stories live. This is the place where ordinary people become extraordinary. This is the place where your heart will feel something tonight. Before we begin, I want to tell you something. Every story on this channel is written for you. Not for views. Not for likes. For you? So sit down, take a breath, and let this story reach your soul. Change your life. A story written from heart. His name was Daniel. Not Daniel the hero. Not Daniel the legend. Just Daniel. A boy who lived in a small apartment on the third floor of a building that smelled like old paint and forgotten dreams. He was 24 years old. And he had nothing. No job. No direction. No plan. He would wake up every morning around 11 o'clock. He would lie on his mattress and stare at the ceiling. The ceiling never changed. It had a small brown water stain in the corner that looked like a map of nowhere. He would stare at that stain for 30 minutes sometimes. Not thinking. Just existing. Just breathing. Just being alive without actually living. His mother worked 2 jobs. She left the house before 6 in the morning. She came back after 9 at night. Her hands were always tired. Her eyes were always soft. She never complained. But Daniel saw it. He saw the way she moved slowly. He saw the way she sat down with a sigh that carried the weight of years. He saw everything. And he felt guilty. Every single day. But feeling guilty and doing something about it are 2 very different things. And Daniel was very good at feeling guilty. Not so good at doing something. He had friends, or people he called friends. They would sit in his small apartment and play video games until 3 in the morning. They would laugh loud. They would eat badly. They would talk about big dreams while doing absolutely nothing to reach them. Marcus was the loudest of them. Marcus always had a plan. A new plan every week. One week it was crypto. The next week it was a clothing brand. The week after that it was a YouTube channel about food. Nothing ever moved past the idea stage. But talking about it felt good. Talking about it felt like doing it. And that was the trap. Daniel lived in that trap too. He just did not know it yet. One night his mother came home later than usual. It was almost 10:30. Daniel was on the couch scrolling through his phone. She walked in and she looked different. Not angry. Not sad. Just empty. Like something had been taken from her. She sat down at the kitchen table. She put her bag down slowly. She did not say anything for a long time. Daniel looked up from his phone. He said, "Mom, are you okay?" She looked at him. Really looked at him. The kind of look that goes through you. The kind of look that does not ask about your day but asks about your life. She said, "Daniel, I got let go today. One of my jobs is gone. They said they do not need me anymore." The room got very quiet. Not the kind of quiet that is peaceful. The kind of quiet that has weight. Daniel sat up. He felt something shift inside him. Something he had never felt quite this way before. It was not just guilt this time. It was shame. Deep shame. The kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. His mother was not crying. That made it worse. She was just sitting there looking at the table. Tired. So tired. She said, "It is okay. I will find something else. Do not worry." But Daniel was already worrying. He was worrying about all the wrong things he had done. All the time he had wasted. All the mornings he had slept through. All the chances that had knocked on his door while he was busy pretending they did not exist. He said, "Mom, I am sorry." She looked at him and smiled a small sad smile. She said, "Do not be sorry, Daniel. Just be better. That is all I ever wanted from you. Not money. Not success. Just better." She got up and went to her room. He sat there alone in the dim light of the apartment. The phone was still in his hand, but he did not look at it. He looked at the ceiling, at the water stain in the corner, at the map of nowhere. And for the first time in a long time he thought. Really thought. He thought about what his life looked like from the outside. He thought about what someone would see if they followed him around for a week with a camera. They would see a young man wasting his 20s. A young man watching other people build things while he sat and watched. A young man who had potential and buried it under laziness and excuses. He put the phone face down on the cushion. He sat in the silence, and something cracked open inside him that night. Not broke. Cracked open. Like an egg. Like a seed. Like the beginning of something that had been waiting too long. That night he did not sleep until 4 in the morning. But not because of video games. Not because of phone scrolling. He sat at the small desk in the corner of his room. The one that was covered in old magazines and charging cables. He cleared it off. He found a notebook under a pile of stuff. He opened it. The pages were blank. He took a pen, and he wrote one question at the top of the first page. He wrote, "What do I actually want from my life?" He stared at that question for a long time. It was the most honest thing he had written in years, and he did not know the answer. That was the problem. He did not know what he wanted. He only knew what he did not want. He did not want to keep living like this. He did not want to watch his mother work herself into the ground. He did not want to be 24 going on nowhere. He did not want to be 60 years old looking back at his 20s with regret, heavy in his heart. So he started there, with what he did not want, and he worked backwards. He wrote, "I do not want to be broke." So the opposite is, "I want financial independence." He wrote, "I do not want to waste my days." So the opposite is, "I want to do something meaningful every day." He wrote, "I do not want my mother to suffer because of me." So the opposite is, "I want to take care of her." He looked at the 3 things he had written. Financial independence. Meaningful daily action. Taking care of his mother. These were not grand goals. They were not world-changing missions. But they were his. Real. Honest. His. He went to sleep that night with a notebook on the desk. Open, like it was breathing. The next morning was different. He woke up at 6:45. Not because of an alarm. Because he woke up with the feeling that something needed to happen. Something needed to start. He lay in bed for exactly 3 minutes. Then he got up. The apartment was quiet. His mother had already gone. There was a small piece of bread on the counter with a note next to it. The note said, "There is tea in the pot. Have a good day." He read the note twice. He made the tea. He sat at the desk with the notebook. He looked at his 3 goals again. Then he turned to a new page. He wrote, "What can I do today?" Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. He thought about his skills. He had studied business in college for 2 years before dropping out. He was decent with computers. He liked writing. He had always been good at explaining things to people. His friends used to say he could make anything sound interesting, even boring things. He thought about the YouTube channel Marcus had talked about the week before, the food channel idea. Marcus had moved on to the next idea already, but Daniel thought about it differently. Not a food channel, but a channel about something real, about stories, real stories, true stories. The kind that stay with you. He had always loved stories. As a kid, his grandmother used to tell him stories from the old country. Stories about people who had nothing and became something. Stories about struggle and dignity and choice. Those stories had lived in him for years. He had never done anything with them. He opened his laptop. The laptop was old and slow. It took 4 minutes to fully start. He opened a blank document. He wrote, Story Avenue. He stared at the name. It felt right. It felt like something that was waiting to be named. He spent the next 3 hours writing, not planning, not researching algorithms, not watching videos about how to grow a channel, just writing. He wrote a story about his grandmother, about how she had crossed a border with 2 children and $40 and built a home from scratch. He wrote it the way she used to tell it, simply, honestly, like it was happening right now. When he finished writing, he read it back. His eyes got wet, not from sadness, from recognition, from the feeling that he had written something true. He did not upload it that day. He did not even record anything. He just wrote, and writing felt like breathing, like something his lungs had been waiting for. The next few weeks were not magical. I want to be honest with you here. This is not a story where everything suddenly becomes beautiful. Real change is not like that. Real change is slow. Real change is quiet. Real change looks boring from the outside. Daniel started waking up at 6:45 every day. Some days it was hard. Some days the bed pulled at him like gravity. But he got up. He made tea. He sat at the desk. He wrote. He borrowed his friend Amir's phone camera. Amir had a slightly better phone. He set it up against a stack of books on his desk. He recorded himself reading the story about his grandmother. He watched the recording back. He looked awkward. His voice was shaky in places. He paused too long in some spots. He said 4 times. He did not like it, but he uploaded it anyway, not because he thought it was perfect, because he thought waiting for perfect was the same as never starting. The video got 11 views in the first week. 7 of them were him. 2 were his mother. 1 was Amir. 1 was a stranger. That one stranger left a comment. It said, "This actually made me feel something. Thank you." Daniel read that comment 10 times. He saved it in his notebook. He wrote it out by hand. One person, one stranger somewhere in the world, felt something because of his words. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. He kept going. Week 2. Week 3. Week 4. He wrote and recorded and uploaded every week. The numbers stayed small. 40 views. 60 views. 30 views. Up and down. Not a rocket ship. More like learning to walk. 1 step. 2 steps. Fall down. Get up. Try again. Marcus came over one evening. He saw the setup. The old laptop. The books propped up as a camera stand. The notebook full of writing. He laughed. Not mean. Just dismissive. The way people laugh when they do not understand. He said, "Bro, nobody watches storytelling channels anymore. You need to do something trendy. Do challenges. Do reaction videos. Do something people actually want." Daniel listened. He heard the words. He considered them for a moment. Then he said, "Marcus, I appreciate you. But I know what I am making. And I know who I am making it for." Marcus shrugged and changed the subject. But Daniel had answered a question that day. A question he had not known he needed to answer. He was making this for the person who had no one. For the person sitting alone at 2, in the morning feeling like they were the only ones struggling. For the person who needed to hear a story about someone who kept going. Not a famous person. Not a rich person. Just a person. Like them. That clarity changed something. He stopped worrying about numbers. He started focusing on truth. Month 2. He got a job. A small job. Working at a print shop 3 days a week. The money was not great, but it was something. He gave his mother $300 at the end of the first month. She tried to say no. He would not let her. She sat down at the kitchen table and cried quietly. Not from sadness, from relief, from something releasing in her chest that had been held tight for years. He went to his room and sat at his desk. He opened the notebook. He did not write anything. He just sat there feeling the weight of that moment. The $300. Her tears. The table. He thought, this is why. This is exactly why. He wrote those words at the top of a new page. This is why. He circled it. And he kept it there. Every time he wanted to quit. Every time the work felt pointless. He opened to that page. And he remembered. Month 3. Something small but important happened. A woman named Patricia found his channel. She left a long comment on his 5th video. The video was about a man who had lost everything in a fire and rebuilt his life from zero. Her comment said, I lost my house last year. I have been struggling to find hope. This story made me feel like maybe I can rebuild too. I do not know who made this, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. Daniel read the comment and he sat very still. He thought about Patricia, a stranger, a woman he had never met, somewhere in the world, sitting alone with her pain. And his words had reached through a screen and touched her. Marcus came over one evening. He saw the setup, the old laptop, the books propped up as a camera stand, the notebook full of writing. He laughed. Not mean, just dismissive. The way people laugh when they do not understand. He said, bro, nobody watches storytelling channels anymore. You need to do something trendy. Do challenges. Do reaction videos. Do something people actually want. Daniel listened. He heard the words. He considered them for a moment. Then he said, Marcus, I appreciate you. But I know what I am making. And I know who I am making it for. Marcus shrugged and changed the subject. But Daniel had answered a question that day. A question he had not known he needed to answer. He was making this for the person who had no one. For the person sitting alone at 2 in the morning feeling like they were the only ones struggling. For the person who needed to hear a story about someone who kept going. Not a famous person. Not a rich person. Just a person. Like them. That clarity changed something. He stopped worrying about numbers. He started focusing on truth. Month 2. He got a job. A small job. Working at a print shop 3 days a week. The money was not great. But it was something. He gave his mother $300 at the end of the first month. She tried to say no. He would not let her. She sat down at the kitchen table and cried quietly. Not from sadness. From relief. From something releasing in her chest that had been held tight for years. He went to his room and sat at his desk. He opened the notebook. He did not write anything. He just sat there feeling the weight of that moment. The $300. Her tears. The table. He thought, this is why. This is exactly why. He wrote those words at the top of a new page. This is why. He circled it. And he kept it there. Every time he wanted to quit. Every time the work felt pointless. He opened to that page. And he remembered. Month 3. Something small but important happened. A woman named Patricia found his channel. She left a long comment on his 5th video. The video was about a man who had lost everything in a fire and rebuilt his life from zero. Her comment said, I lost my house last year. I have been struggling to find hope. This story made me feel like maybe I can rebuild too. I do not know who made this, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. Daniel read the comment and he sat very still. He thought about Patricia, a stranger, a woman he had never met, somewhere in the world, sitting alone with her pain. And his words had reached through a screen and touched her. He replied to her comment. He wrote, Patricia, you found this channel for a reason. The woman in your story is stronger than she knows. Keep going. She replied back. She said, I will. Thank you for this. That was the day Daniel understood what he was building. Not a channel. Not content. A bridge. A bridge between people who were struggling and the stories that could remind them they were not alone. He started writing with that in mind. Every story. Every word. He thought about Patricia. He thought about the person who felt like no one understood. He wrote for them. Month 4. The numbers started changing. Not dramatically, but the comments were getting longer. People were sharing the videos. Not hundreds of thousands of times, but real people sharing with real friends. Saying you need to watch this. Saying this made me cry. Saying this is exactly what I needed today. He got his first 100 subscribers on a Tuesday afternoon. He was at the print shop when it happened. He checked his phone during his break and saw it. He looked at the number for a long time. 100 people. 100 strangers who had said yes. Who had said, I want more of this. Who had said, I am here. He did not post about it. He did not tell Marcus. He went home that evening and wrote his next story. Because the work was the celebration. The work was the reward. I want to pause the story here for a moment. I want to talk to you directly. Not to Daniel. To you. The person reading or listening right now. Because maybe your story looks like Daniel's at the beginning. Maybe you're lying on your mattress staring at a ceiling. Maybe you have a water stain in the corner of your life. A thing that has not changed in a long time. A habit. A pattern. A feeling. Maybe you have a mother like his. Tired. Soft. Waiting for you to believe in yourself the way she believes in you. Maybe you have a notebook somewhere. Blank. Waiting. Maybe you have an idea that has been living inside you for so long that it has started to feel impossible. Not because it is impossible, but because you have not started. I want to tell you something and I want you to hear it. The hardest step is not the 10th step. The hardest step is not the 100th step. The hardest step is the first one. The one you take when nothing is guaranteed. When no one is watching. When you do not even know if it will work. That step. That terrifying quiet step in the dark. That is where everything begins. Daniel did not become successful overnight. He did not go viral. He did not get discovered by a big account. He just kept going. Day after day. Week after week. With doubt and with hope sitting side by side in his chest. And he chose hope. Not because hope was easy, but because the alternative was giving up. And giving up had a cost he was no longer willing to pay. Now back to the story. Month 6. Something happened that Daniel did not expect. Local newspaper ran a small piece about YouTube channels in the city that were doing something different. Story Avenue was mentioned. 1 paragraph, 12 sentences. But 12 sentences in a newspaper that real people read. His subscriber count jumped by 400 in 3 days. He read the article at the print shop. He read it 3 times. He saved the page. He went home and taped it to the wall above his desk. Not because it was a big deal to the world, but because it was a big deal to him. It was proof that something was happening, that something was real. His boss at the print shop saw the article too. Her name was Denise. She was a quiet woman who never said much. One morning she put a coffee on his desk. She said, I read about your channel. She said, you are doing something good. She said, keep at it. That was all. But it meant something, because it came from someone who had watched him work quietly for months. And sometimes the people who watch you quietly are the ones who see you most clearly. Month 8. He quit the print shop. Not because it was not needed, but because the channel had grown enough to bring in some income. Not a lot. Enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to go full time. The night before his last day at the print shop, he sat at his desk. He opened the notebook. He flipped to the first page, the one with the question he had written that dark night on the couch. What do I actually want from my life? He read it. Then he turned to the page where he had written his 3 goals: financial independence, meaningful daily action, taking care of his mother. He had not achieved all of them. Not fully. Not yet. But he was on the road. He was moving. He was alive in a way he had not been alive before. He turned to the page that said, "This is why." He read it. He closed the notebook. He went to bed at 10:30. He woke up at 6:45. He made tea. He sat at the desk. And he wrote. A year passed. Daniel's channel had grown. Not to millions. Not to the kind of numbers people show off at parties. But to 47,000 people who came back every week. 47,000 people who watched his videos at night. In bed. At kitchen tables. On buses. In hospital waiting rooms. In the quiet spaces between hard days. He received a message one morning from a young man in another country. The message said, "I was going to give up on everything 6 months ago. I found your channel and I watched every single video in one night. Something changed in me that night. I started a small business. It is struggling, but I am still here. Thank you for not giving up. Because you did not give up, I did not give up either." Daniel read the message and he could not move for a long time. He thought about that night on the couch. The guilt. The shame. The water stain on the ceiling. His mother's tired eyes. The blank notebook. The question at the top of the page. He thought about all the small mornings. The 6:45 wake-ups. The slow laptop. The shaky voice. The 11 views. The one stranger who felt something. He thought about how close he had come to not starting. How easy it would have been to stay on that couch. How comfortable the familiar sadness had been. How seductive the idea of doing it later always felt. And he thought, what if I had listened to that voice? What if I had stayed still? That young man in another country would have given up. And Daniel would never have known. He would have never known that his arena never seemed to never known that it is his voice was the thing holding someone else together. He wrote back to the young man. He said, "Your message just changed my life. Keep going. I will keep going too." He meant it. Both parts. His mother retired from one of her jobs that year. The good one. The one she had kept after losing the other. She did not have to retire. Daniel made enough now that she could choose. And she chose rest. On the day she stopped working, she came home in the middle of the afternoon. The sun was still out. She stood in the apartment looking slightly lost, like she did not know what to do without exhaustion waiting for her at the door. Daniel made her tea. He put it on the kitchen table. He sat across from her. She looked at him. That same look from that dark night a year ago, but different now. Not empty. Full. She said, "I am proud of you." She said, "I always knew it was in there." She said, "I just needed you to find it." He said, "I almost did not." She said, "But you did." That is what matters. Not almost. What you actually did. They sat in the afternoon sun and drank their tea. The apartment looked the same. Same walls. Same old kitchen. Same third floor in a building that smelled like old paint. But it felt completely different. Because the people inside it were different. Now Daniel is 26. Still young. Still learning. Still making mistakes. Still writing stories that he hopes reach the right people at the right moment. He has a better camera now. Not expensive. But better. He has a microphone. He has a corner of the apartment that is properly lit. His mother sometimes sits and watches him record. She never interrupts. She just watches with a small smile on her face. He is not famous. He is not rich. He is not done. But he is on his way. And he is awake. Not sleeping through his life anymore. Not staring at ceilings. Not living inside the comfortable trap of almost. He is in motion. And motion is everything. I want to tell you something before we finish. Change does not come from a single moment. It does not come from a speech. It does not come from a playlist or a motivation video or a quote on a phone screen. It comes from a decision made in the dark. Made quietly. Made when no one is watching. Made when you are tired and afraid and not sure it will work. It comes from picking up the notebook, writing the question, facing the truth, and then doing one small thing, not 10 things, not everything, one thing. Today, just today. Daniel's one thing was writing a story. Your one thing might be something different. It might be making a phone call, sending an email, going for a walk, opening a document and typing the first sentence of something you have been afraid to start. It might be waking up 45 minutes earlier. It might be putting the phone down. It might be telling someone you trust what you actually want from your life. Whatever it is, do it today. Not because your whole life will change today, but because the version of you who does, the thing today is not the same as the version who does not. And that difference matters. That difference is everything. We have a saying here on English Story Avenue. Every story matters. Yours matters. The one you are living right now. The messy, unfinished, difficult, beautiful story of your life. It matters. Not when it is finished. Right now. As it is. Imperfect and ongoing and yours. So if you are sitting somewhere right now in the dark, if you are staring at your own ceiling, if you have your own water stain in the corner of your life, then this story was for you. And the message is simple. Get the notebook. Write the question. Do the one thing. And come back next week, because we have another story waiting. Another life. Another truth. Another reason to keep going. A year after Daniel uploaded his first video, he received an email. Not a comment. Not a message on YouTube. An actual email from a woman named Fatima who lived far away. She wrote 3 paragraphs. The first one said she had been going through the darkest period of her life when she found his channel. The second one said his stories reminded her that struggle was not the end. The third one was short. It said, I started my own small story channel last month. It is called something different, but the spirit is yours. Thank you for planting the seed. He read that email at his desk at 6:50 in the morning, with his tea going cold beside him. He read it once, then again. Then he looked out the window. The city was just waking up. Lights coming on in buildings. People beginning their days. Each one of them a story. Each one of them something unfinished and ongoing and real. He thought about Fatima. He thought about the young man who started his business. He thought about Patricia rebuilding after the fire. He thought about the stranger who felt something on that very first video. The one stranger out of 11 views. One stranger. That was how it started. One person. One feeling. One moment of connection between a voice and an ear in the dark. He turned back to his desk. He opened his notebook. He turned to a fresh page. He picked up his pen. And he wrote the first line of his next story. Because that is what you do. You keep going. You keep writing. You keep showing up for the people who need to hear that they are not alone. You keep going. And in the keeping going, everything changes. Not all at once. Slowly. Quietly. Like morning. Like light. Like the beginning of something that was always there, waiting for you to begin. Moral. The only person who can change your life is the one looking back at you in the mirror.